Welcome to Inspiring Hope with Lois Hermann, a leading expert in professional coaching, clinical hypnosis, and energy clearing. Lois is an award-winning author of Chronicles of Hope. She has decades of experience in advanced hypnosis techniques, has conducted highly effective success coaching programs that have helped clients discover ways to achieve success, empower themselves, their families, as well as holistic practitioners to expand their practices. Get ready to be empowered with your host, Lois Hermann.
Good morning and welcome to Inspiring Hope. I'm your host, Lois Hermann, and I'm here to inspire you with positive messages and celebrate everyday people who are making a difference in our world. When we focus our thoughts and energies on what we love to do, we create powerful shifts that cause us to be more positive and peaceful. As we lift our energy, we empower everyone around us. If we each do what we can to make small shifts in awareness, from kindness to simple happiness and healthy habits, we create ripples of hope. Join us as catalysts for positive change for our families, our communities, and our world at large. And I hope you're inspired by today's show. And welcome to Memorial Day weekend. And it's really funny. This is our first time that we're wearing the masks. Nashua has a mandate that if you're within 6 feet of one another, you've got to wear a mask. So my buddy Art and I we're in the mask marauders now, and just wondering what are you doing this weekend? What are you doing Memorial Day weekend? I was supposed to be off at a dance retreat, and instead I'm dancing with my plants. We're redefining the gardens, rearranging the plants, doing some mulching, which is good. It's great. It's good to be outside. And let's just take a moment, please, to appreciate all those who have fought for our right to be free. Right now, we may not feel so free by some of these mandates, but many have dedicated and given their lives so that we can live in freedom. And we have to respect their sacrifice as we fight to keep ourselves free from power and control. During this time of great uncertainty, the one thing that is certain is that we live in a country that is based on freedom. As we maintain our powerful heart-mind connection that allow ourselves to think and act for ourselves, we maintain our independence against tyranny from the inside out. Yes, we have to follow certain rules, but other things we can choose for ourselves. I so admire those who have fought for us. My heart goes out to what they experienced in the front lines and how those memories affected their life. I've assisted many vets to reclaim their peace of mind by doing mindfulness resets and energy clearing sessions for them. When the mind ruminates over past traumas, often our emotions react without knowing quite why. One of the ways I help clients is by resetting the mind for positive thinking and removing any external influencing energies. Recently, I worked with a vet who was a special forces he was in the Special Forces. He spent numerous tours in Iraq and Afghanistan. He'd been on many missions where he lost good friends and often felt guilty that he was still alive. He struggled with sudden outbursts of anger that seemed to come from nowhere. When he went into trance, we found that several of his buddies were happy and content in the light, while others were stuck in between. They were angry at what had happened to them. When we helped these lost ones transition to a place of healing, he felt at peace. After several healing sessions, his buddies in the spirit world invited him to a card game where they were happily playing a game together. Their message was one of gratitude for his assistance. They encouraged him. They wanted him to live his life for them, to enjoy what they could not. His anger dissipated, and he went on to feel peaceful and content. In this time of great uncertainty, many are feeling negative energy and are unaware of how it affects their lives. If you feel there have been times when you felt angry for no reason, or you have little or no energy, give a call or schedule a session at loishermann.com. I know it sounds crazy, but there are others who share this keen awareness. My book, Spirits of Amoskeag and Chronicles of Hope, describe situations where spirits of the unseen world, the spirits of the dead, interfered with the living. Chronicles even shares what you can do to protect your energy. You can order them on Amazon or join our community at chroniclesofhope.net community. We meet this Thursday at 7 p.m. Is Chantelle ready? Awesome. So stay with me as our next guest shares incredible stories that rival the best ghost stories that you've ever heard. And these are true, and they end happily ever after. You are listening to Inspiring Hope with Lois Hermann at WSMN 1590. I'd like to introduce and welcome Chantelle Renee. She's an author, speaker, energy coach, hypnotherapist, and a catalyst for spiritual growth and healing. She's going to explain how to shift your negative energy and align with the divine to inspire yourself for positive change. She has amazing transformational stories of how she's risen above some great challenges and cleared the negative energy from around herself. Please help me welcome Chantelle Renee. Hello, Chantelle.
Hey, Lois. How are you?
I'm good, except I'm kind of muffled. I'm having to wear a mask. It's kind of hard to breathe and talk at the same time. So you get to talk now, which is great. So tell us about yourself.
And just kind of enjoying some vacation time before we get back to opening the office. But more personally about me, I'm the author of Aligning with the Divine. I'm a hypnotherapist, like you had said, and I'm just really passionate about helping people to, reconnect with their spiritual side that a lot of us have forgotten as we've been navigating the world. So that's really my passion, and I really feel my purpose in this lifetime.
And this is something that you've been aware of for most of your life. Is that correct?
I really feel like I've been on the awakening journey since I was very, very young, probably before even school age. I just had a higher awareness that I particularly was here to assist in my family dynamics to shift some generational patterns of emotional abuse and other things like that. So I started off with that awareness, and it just really developed for me. And it really helps me, I believe, that I moved over 30 times as a child, and I didn't have any siblings until I was 15. So my connection with the divine was really my saving grace. It was just what made me feel connected and loved at all times, and helped me to just get through pretty much everything in my life by having that strong connection. So.
Wow, I don't think I've ever met anybody else who's moved as many times as I have. Actually, you've moved more. That's amazing.
Yeah, it was really, I didn't enjoy it growing up, but I really look back and it served me well, for sure.
Yeah. And I know you were talked about, one of the things that started you on this journey was you had lost everything. And we're sitting here, everybody is worried about and upset about the coronavirus and how it's affecting their life. You went through a real catastrophe. Can you tell us that story?
Yeah, sure. So in 2016, me and my family were living in Louisiana, and there was a great flood, a historic flood that hadn't happened in hundreds of years in the area that we actually lived. And it was basically a river, a 5-foot river, came through our house and just destroyed everything. Financially devastated us, all our cars, clothes, home, everything. We didn't have insurance because it wasn't offered. It was a non-flood zone.
Wow.
So it was just complete, just utter devastation financially, and then, being homeless with, full family and kids. And so ironically, I was writing Aligning with Divine, which is a book of, it merges spirituality and science, to keep us empowered. And so I was really called to practice everything that I was writing about. And a lot of the things I write about kind of come through me. It's clear knowing. It's just the intuition that, flows through us. And so, we basically lost everything. But the beauty was I was writing this book, and I had this higher awareness of how to kind of alchemize energy, or to turn a negative into a positive. And in a devastation like that, in a poverty consciousness community, it's very difficult to keep your energy high
Yes.
when you're basically don't have anywhere to live, you have no clean water, food, things like that. Your emotions, it's hard to stay upbeat and positive. I totally get that. But just through the awareness that this too shall pass, and that as I began to focus on gratitude of what I still had my family, my pets were alive, that really raised my vibration and allowed me to be able to help rebuild our home within record time. It was really like 2.5 months from studs to a beautifully refinished home.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it was a lot of, grit and things along the way, but it really was incredible. We were definitely like one of the first people to be totally done in the community, and we had decided after we had went through that we wanted a change of pace, so we decided we were going to move to Illinois for just a new experience, basically. And I was like, oh, we're going to sell this house to the first person that looks at it, and that happened. So nobody really wants to buy a flooded house, but they did, and so that just helped us to get on our way.
Wow. Wow, you said that the only thing that you kept with you as you left the flood, the house that was flooding, were your pets, your children, and your book.
Yeah, my book, because it was just about done. I was watering this garden. I didn't even really plan on writing it, but I just knew that I needed that, and I left with no shoes on, which was kind of silly, but, when you're in that situation, you just kind of get to get out.
Wow.
You have to escape through a window and things like that.
You did? Seriously?
Mm-hmm.
Wow, that's what a story. I mean, at the time, it's a nightmare living through it. But you use the power of positive thought to shift your energy, to bring your energy, vibrational energy up. And I love that. That's one of the things that you and I are in alignment with, is the whole concept of shifting our energy to be more positive. And as we do that, we shift our awareness, and we draw to us other positive experiences.
Yeah, absolutely. And one thing I can share that went with the flood, that especially in times right now, it's really hard to be positive when everybody around you is in a very negative and contracted state of being. So, for example, cabinets were something, because there was thousands and thousands of people that, devastated by this. Cabinets were about a year out before people could get cabinets, put back in their house. And I had numerous people say, you're never going to get cabinets. You're going to have to, it's going to be a year. And I just thought to myself, no, we're going to get cabinets. And I set that intention, and on my way out of the neighborhood to go to Home Depot, there was a company putting up a sign that had just moved from New Orleans to Denham, to the area that we were at. And they were a cabinet company, and I was one of the first customers.
That's amazing.
So that was kind of fun.
Yeah. That's the whole concept of manifesting, of putting your intention on what you wish for, what you desire, and then just watching for it. It doesn't automatically fall in your lap, but you had to see that, and then you had to act on it, right?
Yeah, absolutely. You definitely have to put, energy behind the intention and move towards that direction.
Right. Yeah, you talked about getting information from nature, that's one of the areas that nature inspires you.
Oh, yes. I think if we all were able to slow down and tune in, it's really one of the greatest teachers we have. And in Louisiana, the nature is just really beautiful. I just specifically had one moment actually several moments. The river really spoke to me and gave me a really deep and profound lesson about human emotions, about getting stuck in the rocks and the mud, and that being more your slower, stagnant emotional states, and then learning how to dive a little deeper and become a little freer as you get into the forward flow of positive thoughts, feelings, emotions. You can really transcend a lot of those resistant states. It takes conscious effort, and it takes, spiritual maturity, in order to do those things. Just to be honest, not everybody has that awareness, and that's what you and I are really passionate about bringing into the world, I feel, is just knowing our power and how to align with it.
I say that practice makes permanent. A lot of people say, "Well, I can't meditate, or I can't do those exercises. My mind won't let me." Well, it's kind of like riding a bike. If you haven't been on, you have to get on it time and time and time again, and then it becomes second nature. So the more you do it, the more it becomes natural to you. And I know that I wake every morning and I lay in bed and I spend the first 5 to 10 minutes doing an energy clearing, number one, and number two, setting my intention for the day. And when I do that, I definitely find that the day just flows. When I forget to do that, that's when I end up with the boulders in the middle of the stream.
Yes, but yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so, and again, if this doesn't have to be perfect. I love the thought of practice makes permanent. The more you do it, the more comfortable you are, but it never has to be perfect. You have to do what feels right for you. And just being out and being inspired by nature, just sitting there, digging into the dirt and talking to the plants yesterday was very helpful, because I'm trying to rearrange and relocate some of these plants. I don't know what gets into people when they build a house and they put these great big trees and shrubs right up against the house. What do they think is going to happen in 30 years? Give them a little space, give them room to grow. So we're having to move some of these bigger shrubs and just really re-landscape the perimeter of the house. And so I sit there and I just kind of talk to them and go, where would you like to be?
Yeah.
Yes. And when I do that, they end up very happy. If I just pick it up and plop it somewhere, yeah, not so happy.
Yeah, no, that's really a neat thing how that happens.
Mm-hmm. So, what stories would you like to share about what's in your life, what's going on? You have the manifesting story, which is what visualizing, and there was also a story about your book story.
Are you talking about when I was in the hospital?
Yes, you said you were wanting to share that story.
Yeah, this was a story that I really kept kind of near and dear, because it can be a far out story for a lot of people who just haven't really explored, the metaphysical realm and other dimensions and things like that. But yeah, I'd be happy to share it, because it's very real to me, and it's really assisted me in helping lots and lots of people to help themselves. So last summer, I had been traveling and doing some presenting, and I had came home and ended up getting really, really sick. We don't even know what it was. If we think it was an attack on my nervous system, I ended up in the hospital with the worst pain I'd ever experienced. I'd been through blood clots, delivered children, so I know I'm pretty tolerant to pain, but this was just next level. So for 6 days, I was just in excruciating pain. And towards the end of my stay, the pain had gotten so bad that I was convulsing, and medication was not helping at all. And there was this moment where I went out of body, and I witnessed myself on the hospital bed with my husband and my friend in the room watching, just really scared for me, and watching the nurses, and then also seeing myself, like if you can envision someone floating on the top of an ocean, and then all of a sudden you just catapult to the bottom, you just drop, free fall. And it was during that free fall I could really feel my auric field and my energy field breaking open and kind of becoming dismantled.
Wow.
And yeah, and as I was falling, the best way to think about it is like an ocean. And through the process of falling and witnessing this from outside of my body as well, as I was falling and I got to the bottom of what seemed like an ocean, like I slammed to the bottom, and then I started to begin to feel the presence of entities coming up to me. I wasn't scared of them or anything. Mm-hmm. I just felt a real presence moving towards me from all directions around me. Mm-hmm. And as I really kind of tuned in, I kept questioning, like, is this the pain medicine making me hallucinate? Like, I'm really a pretty logical spiritualist.
Right.
I question everything. And I'm like, no, this is really, I can feel and sense this. So as they got closer, these were entities. They didn't feel intentional to me. They kind of seemed to me to be like when a crow is cleaning up the highway from an animal that has passed, or a catfish, like a bottom feeder kind of energy that was just kind of coming to clean up something.
Right.
But it creeped me out because the way they looked, they were kind of shocking. They looked like octopuses or catfish or something like that.
Sure, yeah.
But I have the higher awareness, and I was like, no, please back away from me. And as soon as I commanded my light and commanded my energy, they fell back, and in a very respectful way, too. And what I learned was I was in one vibration when I was kind of just floating on top of the ocean, if you will.
Right.
And then through the process of falling to the bottom, my vibration had shifted so quickly. So if you think about like grief or a
fear.
massive amount of pain
Yes,
or fear, how our
yeah.
energy can shift that
Yes.
quickly. And what happens is that vibration sends out a signal into the quantum field, and it's like a sonar or like a call for these energies to come to feed, to do their duties, I guess.
Yeah, exactly.
So as I came to, they faded away, and I was doing my best to pull my composure back together. And when I came to and I was back in my body, I opened my eyes and I could see all of the nurses and the doctors around me. They had plentiful amounts of disturbance in their own energetic fields. They had things enmeshed in them of all kinds of things. So I wouldn't have had the awareness of the kinds of things that do interfere with our lives, whether we realize it or not, unless I had experienced that experience of being out of body and witnessing another dimension simultaneously.
Many
I
people
wrote a book about
have the experience of had out-of-body experiences when they've been in comas or near-death experiences. There have been a lot of people who have had those experiences, and yet yours was even more intense because you were actually able to see these other energies around you.
Yeah, and how they really kind of feed on us, and they influence us in many, many ways. But the beautiful story of it all is, just as Jesus and many other masters have taught us, is, when you know yourself and you know how powerful you are, when you know thyself, you really kind of step into mastery, and you realize that you too can transcend that. And so it's not about fear, it's really about reclaiming, your sacred energy that most of us have forgotten. Spiritual warfare is real, and I know you see it in your office, and I've seen it in my office, and it's an incredible thing that takes place when we clear them away from our being.
Absolutely.
We have, people who have been diagnosed psychopath or very, very deep, dark, almost sentences to people's lives that are basically being influenced by other entities. And once the entities are removed, they get their life back. They get their sovereignty back. Exactly.
That was the story that I just told of the vet that had spent so many tours and seen so much devastation and himself had killed. And he just was so haunted by the memories and by these energies around him. Not only were his buddies that had died around him, but there were others around. And once we cleared them, and he was manifesting intense anger from, which has come over him, is the way he described it. So it's interesting. Once we help transition these entities, the human host feels so much better.
Yeah, it's really life-changing for some of them.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. They always they describe feeling lighter. And it's interesting there you're talking about what we termed in the book, the Chronicles of Hope, Book 1, we termed the EEFs, the emotional energy feeders that are specifically that, bottom feeders that are just coming. They are attracted to low-level energies of guilt, shame, fear, anger, all those, and they come and they're just neutralizers. And you did a brilliant job of just saying, go away. All you have to do is shoo them away, and they'll leave. They don't really, these do not have malintent. They're just like, I could describe them as algae eaters in the fish tank. There's an actual purpose to them. But our fear causes us to continue that fear thought, which continues to allow them to feed, which then lowers our energy and lowers our, our strength, our zest for life, all of that. And I just want to mention that for the listener, you're listening to Inspiring Hope with Lois Hermann, and I'm speaking with Chantelle Renee. And I know this sounds like a lot of negative right now, but we're going to switch that up in a minute and tell you more about when you realize that these things are there, what can you do about it? And you can, as Chantelle was saying, you can reclaim your power and shift your energy through being positive. Is that correct?
Oh, yes. It's really, you have to be very intentional and really claim, sovereignty over your own energy because of free will. And as soon as you do that, we're very incredibly powerful. Sometimes you might need assistance from somebody like Lois or I to help you to do the clearing on a deeper level. But and then your life just really shifts into a complete different. We've heard the things of something made me say it. It didn't feel like me.
Right.
Those are cues to really listen to if you don't feel like it's yourself, because it very well might not be.
Something came over me and I did this. Yes. It's very real. And that something could be passed over grandparent that was really negative that's still hanging around. Or it could be something that you've picked up in the hospital. A lot of my clients have picked up energies while they've had a hospital stay, which is what you saw while you were there. You saw the spirits hovering around the doctors, the nurses, and the other hospital staff.
Oh, yeah. Well, just think about all the emotional discharge there, the grief, the loss, pain, all of that.
Right.
Those emotional energies are very, very dense and leave a very powerful, marking on that space.
Exactly. And then the number of people who have died in the hospitals that are afraid and don't know where to go. So they just kind of hang there until somebody comes along and they go, oh, wow, this is a cool person. Let me just hang out with them. And then they bring their fears and worries to the living.
Yeah, absolutely. So definitely if the listeners are in the healthcare field, especially, and, most nurses that I've come across are empaths themselves.
Yes.
So you're really sponging up that atmosphere, and so really taking time to do your energetic hygiene is incredibly important, just as important as showering.
Exactly. And that's what I tell my clients all the time. It's spiritual hygiene. You wouldn't leave the house. Well, you wouldn't start your day without brushing your teeth, because many people aren't leaving the house right now. We're starting to leave the house, but you wouldn't start your day without brushing your teeth. So I encourage people to incorporate that spiritual hygiene, clearing your energy and expanding that glowing energy field within you, clearing the energy around you, and zipping up what I call your protective bubble before you encounter or deal with people, because so many people, especially now, everybody has such fear, or many people have such fear, and that fear is contagious. And
it is.
Yeah, and that's the challenge is keeping your energy strong in light of dealing with people who are watching the news. There's so much fear in the news and so much negativity, and that will lower your vibrational energy. It is physics. It is physics. So shifting your energy to be more positive will keep you more resilient and more protected.
And it takes a muscle. I mean, so, a lot of people, it's easy for us to say, think positive, be positive. It takes conscious effort. It takes intentional, you have to be intentional about it. So, it's also another thing that we can slip into victim mentality, like you were saying, your one client, or somebody was saying that, I don't know how to meditate, I don't know how to do any of that.
Mm-hmm.
But the more you practice, the more it becomes just a natural thing.
Exactly. Yeah. And you had mentioned that about helping so many people and helping a child that had with like 50 entities, or it's amazing how some of these children who have been very, very sick have a lot of negative energies around them. And
absolutely. I mean, if you just think about in the gateway, it can be numerous things. I mean, so the little boy was just really an exceptional story, and I felt really blessed to be a part of the group of people that worked with him. And, his mother was completely distraught. thinking he was going to be locked up for the rest of his life. And here it was really an entity that was using him as a host. It sounds disturbing, and it's not really about being fearful. We have to realize we see a tiny percentage of what is on the electromagnetic light scale, or and so if we just realize that there's a lot of things going on around us, but we're here to really master our own energy and learn how to do that in a world of chaos. If we can hold our own vibration in a world of fear, that's pretty incredible, really.
And I know that a lot of what we're talking about seems far-fetched to people, but the way that I describe it to some of my clients is you don't see energy, but you wouldn't want to stick your finger in a socket, electrical socket. It's very real. So we're talking about spiritual energy or another type of metaphysical energy because we are energetic beings. Many people know about the chakras, the energy centers in the body, that we have electromagnetic energy fields around us. So we exude electromagnetic energy. And those people who have passed over, that electromagnetic energy does not have a human body to motivate, so they don't necessarily know where to go. If someone has lived a good life and is very spiritual, very religious, they usually they go straight into the light, which is wonderful. Many people refer to that as heaven. What we see are people who were disturbed, distraught, angry, sad, emotional, or did not have a good spiritual foundation. Those are the ones that tend to get stuck in between. And then they will hang around somebody that they either are a kindred spirit or somebody of like mind or a family member, or sometimes they're just there to annoy people.
Yeah, there's the mischievous ones out there for sure. If you were mischievous in life, it's a pretty good chance you're going to be mischievous in the after.
The energy is the energy. That's right. So it was an interesting story in that you and I had met a couple of months before the situation that you found yourself in the hospital. And you and I had an instantaneous bond, a knowing, just kindred. And I gave you a copy of my advanced reader copy of book 1, and book 2, that's coming out now too. But I was just so connected with you that I offered and I asked you to please read it and give me your insight. And so you had in your presence that book, and then you ended up sick. So tell us that part of the story. I think this is fascinating.
Yeah, so after the experience, I wanted to write it down because it was so vivid, and I had gotten so many kind of spiritual downloads of understanding of how things kind of work energetically with other entities. So I wanted to write it all down, and keep in mind I was on so much pain medicine that I was kind of like in and out sleeping quite a bit, but I made sure to write it down. And then I ended up going home, and I'm telling my husband, bless his heart, he's been really good, with what I do in the world, and he's very supportive, and he's a very grounded kind of person, so a lot, it has him stretching when I talk about a lot of things, but he kind of goes with it really well. So I was telling him about what I experienced, and he was like, wow. And then a few days later, I ended up going home, and that your book, which I hadn't had time to read because I was traveling and then I was sick, was sitting on my on my coffee table, which I don't even know how it got there. Of course, that's how that works.
Of course.
And I'm like, well, I was ready to start reading. I was feeling good enough, and so I started reading. And literally, I think it's the first session, maybe the second, where you guys were really diving into the phenomenon of the EAFs, the energy emotional feeders.
Yes.
And I had just experienced it. So for me, it was validation and confirmation from spirit that what I experienced was very much true, and then I was going to be using that in service of in some way. So, and through the Chronicles of Hope, there's just a lot of resonance for me personally of, the truth in their message. So it was definitely a very beautiful blessing and confirmation for what I had went through, because it can be far out there for a lot of people.
Yes.
Even for me, it was pretty like, okay, wow, I see you now in a different way, but very, very empowering too.
Right. Yes. And for the listeners, you're listening to Inspiring Hope with Lois Hermann, and we're speaking with Chantelle Renee. And we're talking about energies that are around us and how we attract them through our fear, our negativity, and what we can do to shift them to be more positive as we choose positive thoughts, positive actions, doing positive things. And learning how to do spiritual practices, the meditation, the clearing the energy, those are very important to keep your energy strong and to prevent further attachment or attack. It's very real. It seems out there. A lot of the sci-fi movies and shows are based on this, and somebody got those inspirations from somewhere, and it's very real in our world. So Chantelle,
Yeah.
what do you do? How do you inspire people to stay positive? What is it that you do to inspire people?
What I find that is kind of just a natural lane for me is just helping people to remember who they are and help them align to their own heart and their own their own soul. Because when you help people kind of get in their alignment, they're good to go. That you don't have to have 20 years of psycho and therapy. You kind of just lock into who you really are at your deeper essence, beyond this temporary experience we're having. So that's really what I find is how I help people, is just really helping them to connect. I do that with hypnosis, with counseling, things like that. Just helping them to tap that into their own magic. I mean, their own soul's energy is incredible. And a lot of times, one of my favorite songs is Amazing Grace, when we get lost, but then the beauty is getting found, and when you get into that state of knowing, you can live a really pretty miraculous life in the physical body. And I think that's what we're all, what's taking place on the planet right now is we're shifting into our higher awareness, more enlightened state of being. And right now, with all this chaos and destruction, things have to be destroyed to be rebuilt in a better, more positive way.
And they say in the mindset of physics, because I too come from a physics background, out of chaos comes implicate order. So you have to shake things up. So we're going through this shake up right now, and then we will end up going into people will find a new normal. I don't think we'll ever go back to the old normal. We'll be going into a new state of awareness, a new normal.
Yeah, I mean, this was just a lot of very malleable energy as a collective that. And there's a lot of people who have been preparing and who have been energetically working on themselves to hold the light with all of this chaos. I don't know about you, Lois, but I have lots and lots of people calling in the office for anxiety right now.
Yes, a lot of people are dealing with intense stress, and definitely reach out to your hypnotherapist, to your therapist. Reach out to Chantelle, myself. We're doing sessions via Zoom. It doesn't matter where you live. We can help you. Just reach out. Yeah. You can get a hold of me at loisherman.com. Chantelle, what email address would they find for you?
My website is chantellerenee.org, and you can contact me through there too, or Facebook, or my email is chantellerenee@hotmail.
Okay. Excellent. And so you do what's called an energy enlightenment tour. You have a couple of partners that you travel around and do group sessions. I think that that's wonderful.
Yeah, this was really, I'm kind of like a pretty, public speaking thing was not something I ever thought I really wanted to do, but, Spirit sometimes has another plan for you.
Yes.
And so I ended up meeting these two other incredible women. Brittany Buckwalter is a psychic medium, the Missouri medium. She's just a fabulous gift to the grieving. And Kelly Howe is a energy specialist as well. She does EFT tapping, and her clients have found definitely with anxiety, I would definitely look into tapping. I think maybe Lois, you do that too, but it really moves that energy through our nervous system so that we can become grounded and centered. So,
and one of the principles,
full day seminar.
One of the principles of the EFT, emotional freedom technique tapping, one of the principles is to identify the emotion. Many times we don't know what's going on, and it just sits there and it's sort of like the squeaky wheel that just gets louder and louder. When you pay attention to it, it quietens because you've given it a name. You understand, or you're at least listening to what's going on in your body. And then as you tap, you're tapping acupressure meridian points that release and shift the emotions. So yeah, there's amazing techniques that can be used. NLP, hypnosis. There's a lot of very efficient and effective techniques that can be used when you're working with people who know how to use them. So that's wonderful.
Yeah, definitely. It is a very cool tool to use. Definitely. Natural, fast,
Yes.
and effective. It's really healing instead of just treating. And sometimes the simplest things are the best things.
And what do you suggest to others to stay upbeat and inspired? What do you suggest?
Well, you don't have to. I feel like just walking in a state of balance and having the awareness of when you're getting really moody or dark or depressed, really tune in to a higher, I call it the bird's eye perspective. Look down at yourself. What are you engaging in? Where are your thoughts flowing? Who are you surrounding yourself with? What are you watching? What are you listening to? And then pivot and then shift it, into something that's going to lift you. It comes into, if you want to walk a path of mastery, being responsible for your own emotional well-being, we have to kind of monitor ourselves. We have to take the wheel and drive ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
And so I just feel to say that you're always going to be upbeat and happy is kind of difficult, but if you can maintain a steady balance, it's much easier for you to tune into higher vibrations than if you were so far lost, say, in the dense emotions of fear.
Right.
It's like quicksand. It pulls you away. So if you're in a balanced state, it's much easier for you to navigate both mediums because we live in a dualistic universe. So I think walking in balance is more achievable than, but some people are able to just walk in complete and utter bliss, and I think that's amazing. But I don't know about you, but in the reality of this realm, we have to really be able to be in balance because we're going to experience both extremes throughout our lives, and learning how to navigate that, I think, will serve us the best.
Absolutely. And when you're in balance, you also know when you get off kilter, when you get off balance. And if you're paying attention to it, then when you get off kilter or off balance, then you can say, okay, what's happening? This does not feel right. Something's wrong here. And that's when you can take the time. If you're paying attention, then you can say, okay, I need to do an energy clearing. I need to shift my thoughts. I need to not watch that scary movie. I need to watch the Hallmark Channel or something that makes me laugh or something that's uplifting. I love the nature channels. So watching something, so paying attention what you're feeding yourself, whether it's what you're reading, what you're watching, what you're listening to, and the people you surround yourself with. That's also just dose yourself. If someone is incredibly negative, change the subject, shift the energy, and limit your exposure to toxic environments.
Yeah, and it really comes down to the act of self-love. I think maybe you probably definitely realize that a lot of people don't love themselves, and it's really an epidemic, and it's really the foundation for all negativity to come into your life because if you don't love yourself,
Absolutely.
you're going to admit that out into the world, and then you're going to get it reinforcement from the universe.
Absolutely.
Which is a great teacher. I mean, we've all been there, I feel. It's how we learn. But I think a lot of us are coming to the point where we're kind of sick of the same lessons and we're ready to just move beyond them and master them.
And I think many of us are mastering them in this lifetime. A lot of people in the past just went to their death without really investigating, without really looking within. And I think many people in this day and age are looking within. Where is this coming from? Why do I feel so bad about myself? What is it that caused this? And these are some of these techniques that we can use with hypnosis, be it an early childhood situation, be it a past life, be it as an energy around you. There's many different ways or reasons, but it's the awareness that something is off. And I just wanted to mention to the listener that you're listening to Inspiring Hope with Lois Hermann. We're here at WSMN 1590 every Sunday morning where we shine the light on a wonderful, wonderful person. And today we're speaking with Chantelle Renee. And Chantelle, you actually, I'm privileged, honored, and delighted that you actually wrote the foreword for book 2. And
oh, yeah. It's my honor.
Oh, goodness. I was going to ask if you had it with you, if you could actually read it, because I'm going to be talking more about book 2. Book 1 is out, book 2 is coming in August, and it's at the publisher now, but I would love for you, if you don't mind, to read your comment that's being included in the foreword.
Yeah, absolutely.
Can we hear her?
Would you like me just to read it verbatim?
Sure, that'd be great.
Okay. All right. So, the greatest books are the books that change people's lives. They tell the world something it needs to hear, even if it challenges everything that was thought to be true. Chronicles of Hope, the collective, is exactly that book. I had the pleasure of meeting Lois Hermann at the Heartland Hypnosis Conference in St. Louis, Missouri, and I was instantly enamored by her compassionate heart and enthusiastic care and concern for humanity. Her vibrant and authentic energy is what allows the spirit of love to flow through her writing and into the heart of the reader. This genuine heart-centered connection between writer and reader invites you to dive deeply into each session, to connect with the divine energy in everyone and everything. This book is a testament to the fact that there is nothing that love and hope cannot touch. Not even our deepest wounds. An author myself, I always believe that the best books are those that truly make a difference. You know the ones, the books that lovingly tell you what you need to hear, and yet somehow manage to question beliefs that you have been taught. I invite you to a conscious, expanding activation of your heart that will simultaneously awaken you, challenge you, and inspire you to join Team Hope. The information in Chronicles of Hope can only be described as a download of divine proportions, a sacred tome, and this series of messages provided insights to guide us through these transformational times. Each session reveals gems of profound wisdom to help humanity usher in the age of unity consciousness. The ancient wisdom brought forth through these modern times take you on an interstellar ride to new eternal heights. Anyone who reads this book is sure to walk away with abundant resources that can serve them for the rest of their lives and beyond. The essential practices given by the collective increase our vibrational energy and teach the world how to embody love and to transcend fear. As with any change, you will know the truth by the way you feel. With this in mind, I encourage you to feel your way through this book series. Keep your heart and mind open as you journey into an enlightened state of remembrance, and I dare you to step into the magic of who you were born to be and allow the infinite possibilities to transform your life. You can help save all generations to come by cultivating compassion and accountability for the energy you give and receive. Living principles of the messages offered in Chronicles of Hope allows us to transform not only ourselves but humanity as well. Through a process of energetic purging and healing our self-limiting programming, we neutralize destructive ideas that have rendered us powerless. And isn't it time to rid ourselves of those negative self-beliefs and heal the wounds we've carried for far too long? Together we can transform ourselves one spirit at a time from the inside out. We're no longer on the outside looking in, detached from our lives. So step into your power, your divine power now. As we focus on spiritual awareness, we usher in a new age which we can live in tandem with our own divinity and each other. We are here to transcend and anchor higher vibrational frequencies. And when we build these foundational insights, we can birth peace in our hearts and bring hope to humanity. We are the new revolutionaries. Join the revolution.
Thank you so much. That just gives me chills. You are such an eloquent writer. Thank you. I'm honored to have the book start with your beautiful prose. And your book itself, Aligning with the Divine, is one of the things, the books that I read that I was thinking, oh my gosh, my readers really, really need to read this book, because a lot of people, when they read the Chronicles of Hope, it's a high level overview of energy and what we need to do to shift. But your book breaks down what are the chakras. It's like a textbook that my book, it's like they're almost like companion books. So
yeah, they really do flow together very well.
Yes, absolutely. So your book, that Aligning with the Divine, they can get that on Amazon, of course. And that book I highly recommend for people who are listening, and we're talking about all this weird metaphysical stuff. If you want it broken down in wonderful step by step analytical explanations, I would highly recommend, and I do highly recommend, Aligning with the Divine. Chantelle does a beautiful job of explaining the physics, the understanding, the mystery, and the magic in all of these different metaphysical concepts.
Oh, thank you.
And then the Chronicles of Hope is the first book, was a wake-up call, an alarm that if we don't change how we are living now, we may not have much time left. And book 2 are the collective. They're the ones that are coming and saying, here's what you can do. Here's what you need to do as the collective of humanity. And it's interesting that I was on such a passion to get the book out, because they're giving the information as to what we need to do right now with what's going on, with all the isolation, with all the anger, the fear that's going on, all the change. This is an opportunity to take a look inside and make some changes yourself so that we can ride this storm and we can transform the world. You went through that devastating flood, and in the middle of it, little did you know that within just a few months, your house would be rebuilt. And that's the thing. We can rebuild this planet. We can. If we gather together, we can do this.
Amen.
So what other insights do you have? We've got 2 minutes. I know you have a favorite quote that I wanted you to share. And then are there any other insights that you would like to add, Chantelle?
Well, I just think that it would be a great time to just invite the listeners to connect to the angelic realm. I always like to remind people that we have a divine team who is just right here with us, rooting for us, that is always with us. And miracles can really take place when you seek their help. So I would just recommend, if you're open to it, to reach out to your angels and your guides, because they're really right beside you, and we have free will, and they need the permission to intervene in your life. Of course, if it's an untimely death, they will. But they're really here for us. And Lois, I know you feel the same way about that.
Absolutely, yes. And that's one of the things that the collective has said time and again. Please ask. We're here. We want to help you, but we cannot interfere with your free will. You must ask. And if we ask, and many people who have a belief in Jesus, he is right here. There's a whole chapter in the book dedicated to him. It is actually his teachings, yes. So, I
love that Jesus Top 40 is fabulous. I love that.
Yes, we have Jesus' Top 40 as at the end of one of the chapters, because he had so many different insights that were lost or changed over the years. His messages have been changed, and we want to keep true to them. So, your favorite quote, Chantelle?
Oh, my goodness. I don't have it in front of me, but oh, shoot.
I have it.
Do you mind reading it? Because I did not think
yes. Everything changes when you start to emit your own frequency rather than absorbing the frequencies around you. When you start imprinting your intent on the universe rather than receiving an imprint from existence. And that's from Barbara Marciniak?
Yep, that's it.
Yeah, wonderful, and how perfectly timed. Very much. So thank you so much, Chantelle. Thank you, listeners. And I hope that you have a wonderful week full of positive energy. And I look forward to seeing you next week at Inspiring Hope with Lois Hermann on WSMN 1590. Meanwhile, look up, stay positive, and be the light in someone's day. Namaste.